And welcome to our MOSIS Core Data webinar focusing on the October cycle. We will be posting today's recording, the presentation slides, and the questions and answers on the DESE webinar website next week. This webinar is provided to you with closed captioning as well. You may also want to download today's presentation from the download box to the right of the presentation. Today we are going to cover the updates we are aware of at this time for the 2021 school year. Then we will cover the deadlines for the upcoming cycles of data that are due in the coming months. And then lastly, we will go over some guidance to help you when reporting data for the October cycle. We know there are a lot of questions about reporting data this fall, and while we may not have immediate answers for you, we are continuing to hold meetings to discuss all of the various scenarios you all have so we can provide guidance. We want to start by reviewing the new fields that will be part of the student core file in MOSIS. 3 of these fields are required for the October cycle. These include the instruction method, internet access, and device access. And then the 4th new field in the student core is for the PK replacement ID. The instruction method is collecting the predominant instruction method for the student. This will be reported in the October, February, and June student core files. The codes listed are allowed to be reported in the field. These include on-site for the on-site instruction, where students are physically present at the school under the guidance and direction of teachers in the teaching process. There's also DI for distance instruction, which is primarily over 50% online. This is when students are off-site during an intermittent blended or instruction during quarantine period of time and receive instruction primarily over 50% through online means. Instruction includes teacher interaction as approved by the department in the LEA's AMIX plan. We also have DO for distance instruction for primarily over 50% other. This is when students are off-site during an intermittent blended instruction during quarantine period of time and receive instruction primarily over 50% other than online or through use of physical materials. Instruction includes teacher interaction as approved by the department in the LEA's AMIX plan as well. And then we have the blended instruction, which is where students are receiving instruction under a fixed blended planned instructional pattern of on-site and distanced instruction that includes a minimum equivalent of 2 full days of on-site instruction per week. And then the last code that we have is for the virtual, which students are off-site and receive 100% virtual instruction under the requirements of the state law for virtual programs. We've also referenced a link at the bottom of this slide for you to find the full definition for each of these codes to fit into the instruction method field. The second new field for the student core is the internet access. This will be reported in the October cycle to collect if a student has internet access available for educational purposes. The valid code to report in this field is yes, no, or unknown. The same for the device access. This is reporting in October if a student has access to a device for educational purposes. And again, you would report either yes, no, or unknown. The last new field that we added into the student core is the PK replacement ID field. This allows you to report the MOSIS ID for the PK, PKA, PKP student already claimed for state aid that another PK student will be replacing. The attendance reporting document that the school finance office provides on their website is a good resource that goes into detail about replacing a PK student if you do need additional information about that. This field is optional in all cycles, so you would report the MOSIS ID when you would be replacing a student that is a PK state aid student. Here is a look at the fall deadlines. So if you have not already submitted the August cycle of MOSIS and core data, you will need to go ahead and do that at this time. The August MOSIS file is for the summer school hours for your students that attended your approved summer school. And then there are also core data screens that need information verified and possibly updated or data entry. Only one of the August core data screens is populated by MOSIS, and that is screen 16 for the summer school attendance hours. The majority of the August core data screens will roll over from the prior year, so you would just need to update as needed. Just to quickly go through those, if you are new to core data, screen 2 for August is your district information and is used for the school directory, and the bottom portion of that screen is where you are reporting the FTE for support staff, and that information is then what we use to report to the federal government. So it's important to ensure that you're submitting that information on the bottom of screen 2. Screen 2A is where charter LEAs need to add or update their charter board members. Screen 3 is for the contact person for different program areas in your district. The department uses this information to make contact with those various programs in your district. Screen 4 is where on line 1 of screen 4 you want to ensure that the superintendent or the administrator should be listed there so that we can ensure that communications are sent to the superintendent through that contact information. Screen 6 is the district tax data. Some districts may not have this information immediately when the August cycle opens, so you'll just want to ensure that once you have it, that you enter that information onto screen 6. Screen 8 is the information for each of your district's attendance centers. Screen 10 is a school calendar, where you are reporting the planned calendar for this 2021 school year. Screen 25 is collecting information for state-approved gifted education programs. And then we have one new screen for this school year, which is screen 39, which is a new screen that collects information about the number of employed school resource officers. Going back to screen 25 for gifted education, our director of gifted information here at DESE did ask that I share some additional information about the gifted program. So the gifted information that you all report in the educator data for screen 18 and also the assignment data for screen 20 is used for compliance to make sure that the districts who have a gifted program have a certified teacher and the students are getting 150 minutes of services a week. Also in the October student core, where the student data is reported for gifted, that is used to compare the gifted students identified from year to year to see if the gifted population is dropping. If there is a 20% or more decrease of a district's gifted students, there can be a financial withholding. Many times this could just be an error in data reporting and updates would just need to be made in the student core file. So that's just a little bit of additional information on the gifted information as it relates to screen 25 for the gifted programs as well as the student core gifted identifier for students. And then the next information on this slide is about the assessment information. We do have a couple of slides after this one that goes into more detail on the Precode information. As you can see, the end of course fall assessment Precode for the first testing window is due September 30th, and the Precode for the second testing window will be due around November 12th. We do have a CCR ID cleanup file this year that will be opening around September 21st, and it will be due around October 9th. If you recall, we opened the October Educator and the assignment files early this year, to aid in obtaining information for the virtual learning platform, also known as VLP. So in the next week or so, we will be opening up the October student core file. So the educator and the assignment information is already out there, and then we will be opening the student core in the coming week. We have received a lot of questions on reporting the planned calendar on screen 10 this year, so we would just like to remind you that the total number of planned hours that school will be in session should not include weather makeup hours. The requirement is a minimum of 1,044 hours and 522 hours for half-day programs. The total planned number of makeup hours needs a minimum of 36, and AMI hours do not take the place of planning your 36 makeup hours. This is just another quick look at the end of course fall assessment Precode information that we covered on the prior slide. So the first window is going to open around September 14th, so I believe that is next Monday. And the testing window is from October 26th until January 22nd of next year. This file will be due September 30th. And then we have the second window, which is the same testing window period of time. It will open around October 29th, and then it will be due around November 12th. And just ensure that the examiner email listed in the file on each record matches the educator first and last name fields, or the testing vendor will not accept the information. We also talked about the CCRID cleanup and when it opens. And typically, we also would have had a June ID cleanup file, but we did not have that one this year. So that would have happened about a month or so ago. So just kind of a side note that the June ID cleanup is not occurring, but we do have the CCR ID cleanup. So this one is where the department obtains the assessment results for ACT, SAT, AP, and IB from the testing companies, and the assessment records are then ran against the MOSIS ID system to obtain the MOSIS ID for the student tested. To help obtain the MOSIS ID for the remaining assessment records, the department creates the CCRID cleanup trial for each district and charter for any of the records that are missing the MOSIS ID. Once we open the CCRID cleanup trials, if your district or charter does not have one out in MOSIS data collection, then you do not need to do anything. If by chance you accidentally delete the trial that is out there, if you did have one, just contact us and we'll be able to place it back out there for you so that you can clean up any of the IDs that may need to be updated or added. This collection will be due October 9th. This is just a quick look at the student core file in MOSIS. It will include a record for each student who was enrolled or was a member in your district. It is based on the count date of the last Wednesday in September, which happens to fall on September 30th for this year. For enrollment, students are going to be marked with a Y in the enrolled on count date field. And then for membership, students are marked with a Y in the enrolled on count date field and an N in the one prior 10-day attendance field if the student attended one of the 10 prior days to the count date. We would also like to remind you that if you are a NAEP district, the student core file needs to be certified by the deadline of October 15th, as they will start pulling that information for NAEP. Some additional information on the one prior 10-day attendance field. It should be reported as N if the student receives on-site instruction and was in attendance one of the 10 previous school days. It should also be reported with an N if the membership for students enrolled in virtual courses per the statutes 162.1250, or 161.670, or students whose LEA is currently providing distance instruction due to the operating under an intermittent blended pattern of instruction. And this would be only if the student is actively engaged in their courses. Here is a look at the other two files in October beyond the student core file. There's also the Educator file, which is made up of the Educator core and the Educator school. And there's also the assignment collection, which is made up of the course assignment and the student assignment files. The Educator core file collects one record for the educator with all of their basic demographic information. The Educator school file collects one or more records for each building in the district that the educator has a position code or approved career education position in. The Educator school file is related to the Educator core file in that if an educator is reported in the Educator school file, that educator must also exist in the Educator core file. The October course assignment file requires a record for each position or assignment in each district or charter school or central office, and the student assignment file includes the students in those assignments. There are some situations where a caseload for the count of enrolled students in a course is reported in the course assignment file instead of the individual student assignments for a course. Earlier, when we were looking at the August cycle for core data, the majority of the screens had data that had to be manually entered directly onto the screen. That is not the case for the October cycle. The only manual entry screen for October is screen 21 for your district or charter's educator vacancies. The rest of the screens will populate when you certify your MOSIS files. And this just kind of gives you some extra detail under each screen that shows you what is populated or what information is on that screen. So we won't go into all of that detail, but it is there for your reference. When reporting the educator in the assignment files, you are reporting personnel requiring a certificate, aides, paras, ancillary personnel, parent educators if they're funded by state or federal programs, and administrators involved with instructional programs. If you contract staff that are not an employee of your district or charter, they are reported with a fiscal agent district code, and zero salary and zero FTE may also be reported. You may also want to reference Exhibit 35 in our Core Data MOSIS reference manual for additional information on reporting educator salary information. When reporting the educator in assignments, remember to report a record for the superintendent and principals, along with other personnel such as the school counselor or librarian. Exhibit 10 in the Core Data MOSIS reference manual has a course code for all of these individuals, as well as they have a specific position code that would be reported with the course. Something else to remember is that the years of experience must increase +1 each year for educators, and there are the MOSIS edits that will enforce that within the system. Throughout the school year, you will need to make changes to the educator in the assignment files. This could be due to an educator leaving or taking on other assignments or a course ending early. There are specific end and start dates in these files to accommodate this. However, you only need to report those dates in those fields if an educator or assignment truly started late in the year or ended early. Some of the edits that are within MOSIS will look for an end date, and if all of your records are end dated, then it's possible you will receive an edit on every record in your file. So you only want to have those dates reported if they truly started late or ended early during the year for any of your courses or educators. There is also a function within MOSIS that will help you to transfer an assignment to another individual, and we have a tutorial on our website that will walk you through that process as well. and it's called transfer assignment. Something else to remember is when you know what your second semester courses are going to be, they will need to be added into the October file. When the June course completion file comes around at the end of the year, it will be looking for all of the courses reported in October. So it's vital that they are all accounted for in October. Okay, I am now going to turn it over to our virtual learning administrator, Casey, and she is going to cover the next few slides on virtual.
Hi, thank you. We would like to start off today making sure that everybody understands that while we know that there's a lot of virtual courses that you're going to be coding, not all of those need to be coded as mocap classes. While mocap classes definitely are virtual, there will be some situations where you will code virtual classes and they will not be mocap courses. So let's see if we can look at that and figure out what that looks like. So virtual courses that would not be mocap would be courses that you as a district have developed and vetted to ensure that it meets the standards of 162.1250, or courses that you have partnered with directly with a vendor and you have also vetted to make sure that they meet the standards of 162.1250. For these courses, you're going to report them with the delivery system V, and you're going to leave the program code blank. MOCAP courses that your students are accessing through the MOCAP program are going to be with our approved providers, which you can see on our MOCAP website. Those would be reported with program code 50 if they are a MOCAP course that has been provided with a teacher through the MOCAP program, or program code 52 if it's a curriculum only course and you are putting your local teacher with it for instruction. It is still delivery system V. For both of these options, both mocap and non-mocap virtual courses, your attendance is going to be claimed based on course completion. This table helps explain what you will be inputting for virtual reporting. Mocap courses will be either 50 or 52. If they were developed by you or purchased from a provider outside the mocap program, there will be no program code. Delivery system will be V for all of them, and then it also goes over where the teacher of record is reported and by who, and who has done the curriculum assurance alignment. If it is a mocap course, we have already looked to make sure that it meets all of these assurances. If it is not a mocap course, then you will need to make sure that your district is doing that.
Thank you, Casey. Okay, so our next slide is the MOSIS ID information. The updating of the MOSIS ID system with your student enrollment periodically throughout the school year has multiple benefits. It can help districts and charters determine if a transferring student is a match, since they will be able to see the district or charter that last updated the student, along with the other identifying information to aid in locating the correct MOSIS ID. It is also beneficial if you use the newest process for direct certification called Direct Match. If your enrollment of students is updated in the MOSIS ID system, you are able to log into Direct Match and use the source feature, and a report will be generated based on the students in your district or charter in the MOSIS ID system, as opposed to having to upload a file each week to run your Direct Match. If you determine a student has more than one ID, please send the IDs to our web reply. That's the chordata-mosis@desi.mo.gov. And we will research the information and let you know which ID is the correct one to use and which one has been retired. We do receive quite a few duplicate IDs each week, so please be patient as we resolve them. If it is urgent and needs prompt attention, please let us know that in the email. So as we just discussed on the previous slide, if you have your enrollment of students updated in the MOSIS ID system, you're able to simply source through Direct Match and it will generate a report for direct certification. There are 3 ways to utilize Direct Match: sourcing, uploading a file, or entering individual students. Just as a reminder, when a student has been identified as a match for direct certification, they will remain a match for the entire school year and will not return in future downloads of your direct match reports for your district or charter. This slide includes some reminders for references you may use when reporting data. We have a listserv for core data and MOSIS, and you can subscribe to it on our website. We do send out communications about MOSIS and core data from time to time on the listserv, so it is a good source for information. We also pre-subscribe the contacts for core data and MOSIS from Screen 3 and core data. So if you are newer to a district or charter, or information needs to be updated on Screen 3 for MOSIS and core data, you'll want to make sure that's done, because we will grab those contacts from Screen 3 to put into our listserv to ensure that those contacts are receiving our information. We have also continued to update the training page on core data and MOSIS as well, with current MOSIS ID and direct match tutorials. This is where you will also find the transfer assignment tutorial that we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the October educators and assignment information. You can also download the 2021 Core Data MOSIS Reference Manual from the link listed on this slide. Okay, so that is the information that we have for you today. We are going to get ready to open it up for questions. We know you guys have a lot of questions, and we're going to provide you as many answers as we can. If we're not able to provide the answer today, we will be getting back with you and providing it in the QA document that we will hopefully get posted as early as next week on the website. As we mentioned earlier, the recorded webinar today, the presentation, and the QA will be available on the department webinar website. We're